Another area in engineering we work with the Met Council to mitigate our infiltration and inflow, and that's where the clear water is getting into our sanitary sewer. So there's different projects that we undertake and work with property owners at times to correct those problems.
A quick question. Yeah. How does the clear water get into the, that's something that's 100 years old, like they had in St. Paul?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Clear water can get into the system. For example, we did a project over by Ferndale and Geranium. What you have some high groundwater, and if you have cracks in the sewer pipe, then you're getting that clear water going right into the sanitary sewer line. Or you could have homes that connect their clear water from their roof or something directly into the sanitary sewer. So those are some of the things that we try to avoid.
But we don't have storm sewers.
Some neighborhoods do, some don't. A majority are coming online with that with our road reconstruction project. So there are a lot of areas now that do have storm sewer.
So you're being taxed for it whether you have it or not?
It's a one-time assessment. So you only pay for it once. It's just like
because
sewer.
it was on my water bill this time, storm sewer, and I thought, I don't have storm sewer.
Right, so you haven't paid for that. It would be done as part of an assessment with a street project.
I disagree with that. Because we were charged for area storm sewers.
That is correct.
That was an assessment.
That is correct, and that counts as the one-time charge. So
right.
if you
but
pay
don't say you've never been charged for it if you don't have it, because we were charged for it.
Right. If there was a project, obviously, and you paid for it, then yeah, that's the only time you're ever going to pay for it. So you could have been charged, if they did an area pond project. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you had to get a storm sewer pipe. So you're right.
Right.
So what you're saying is that the monthly fee that Ann's talking about is different than the one-time assessment.
Yeah, I think they get too confused here, because I get one all the time.
Oh, the EUF charge? Is that?
I think it is.
It says
They
storm-
changed
storm
something, but I think it's the storm sewer I have to pay.
Yeah, that's the storm sewer utility fee.
Everybody pays that.
Yeah. And that everybody pays that based
That's
on.
right, yeah.
Right. But there's a separate one if there's a project. Right. And some people are exempt from that if they've already paid, like Ralph. Next, our office, when developers come in to propose projects, we have people that review the plans and drainage calculations just to make sure what they're proposing isn't going to negatively impact other people. Make sure that they're meeting all of our standards, that they have the right utilities in. Also, one real big area, and this is becoming more focused through the state, is non-degradation and what's called our MS4 permit. And that is where we have to treat our stormwater to meet federal regulations under the Clean Water Act. So a lot of cities are kind of ramping up on this. The state is renewing the permit in 2011. So some of the new things that could come out of that is additional treatment requirements. So right now it's just kind of going through the process with the Pollution Control Agency. There's kind of a year-long stakeholder meeting process. But actually just recently the city passed a surface water management plan as part of the comp plan. And in that, we're kind of ahead of other cities where we are showing how we're going to meet that non-degradation requirement. And a big part of that is infiltrating the first inch of water over new and disturbed areas. So, yeah.
Is that considered the groundwater plan?
No.
Because Maplewood is, I think, the only city that doesn't have a groundwater plan.
The reason we don't, a lot of cities, if they have well systems, they have to do certain reporting with the Pollution Control Agency. A lot of cities don't have a groundwater plan per se. It's usually on a county-wide basis. I know Ramsey County led an effort with that recently, so they're kind of taking the reins for Ramsey County jurisdiction.
What I had read was the cities that were listed, they had groundwater plans, and Maplewood wasn't one of them, but other cities would, and I was just wondering.
Okay, and that could also be well protection plans, and those cities that still have well systems, they have to have certain plans. So yeah, we don't have a specific groundwater plan per se.
I have two questions. One is on street reconstruction. What is the warranty when people get assessed for having their street completely redone? What is the warranty and how long does that last?
Yeah, that's a great question, John. We worked on that as part of our assessment policy that was passed, I believe, this last February or March. And what it is, it's a 35-year exemption from the reconstruction assessment. So in essence, I guess you could equate that to the warranty period. So it would just be regular maintenance that would occur.
I have another question, and that is, how long has it been since they've come to you in planning when a developer comes in and tells you what they're going to do? How long has that been going back for? You know, what year? How many years has that been going? Do you know what year that was when they started? When planning came in and said, we're going to do this?
To do the review process?
Yes.
From my understanding, all cities have always done some sort of review. It might have shifted from planning to engineering as we had more staff to cover that. So from my understanding, all submittals are reviewed, or at least back then by the building department at least.
Well, there's a reason, because I invite everybody at this table and then some to come to my yard and look at that retaining wall. That was when the developers came in and put that group home next to me, they dug right next to my property line. And so I invite everybody in here to come and look at that and see what they really did, what Maplewood really okayed, because we do believe, according to my attorney, we do believe that Maplewood was involved in that, and that they are the ones that said, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and I'll go on with my presentation. I know you had issues with that, but maybe that's something we can talk about after.
Okay.
Next is the engineering department. We've really tried to integrate kind of a green focus into our street projects, whether it's rain gardens, narrowing of streets. The first one, the rain gardens, the city of Maplewood is a real leader in this area. I went to a conference in Monticello this last Thursday, and the U.S. EPA was there, and they highlight the city of Maplewood for their rain garden program. Our staff gets calls from all over the country about it. So this is a program that we're trying to keep facilitating with our street reconstruction projects. Narrowing of streets is kind of a new concept. And this reduces kind of the footprints where pollutants can come off the road. But we work with the residents on whether or not they do want it narrowed. If they don't want the street narrowed, we don't narrow it.
Could I ask a question,
Yeah.
not just on the narrowing of the streets, but how roundabouts work? And, I know that, 10 years ago when I was on the council, to put in a street lights system, it was like $250,000 or something like that. I guess, why don't we do more of those roundabouts? I understand that they take up more space, but yet, to me, they just make more sense environmentally. Is it really the cost of the space, or how do we make those determinations?
Yeah, it's based on traffic volume. Some areas that are really high trafficked intersections would require like a 3-lane roundabout, and I don't know that the public is really. If it's a 1-lane, a lot of cities throughout Minnesota. I think we're the leader in the country with doing roundabouts. There's a huge list. So you're right. It's environmentally. You're not using the electricity for the signals. It does require a little bit more space, but usually it can pay for itself. But
I'm just thinking about the space, the streets right down by my house, by his house, on Midnight Road, and it's like I saw those lights go up, and I thought, darn, they should have put a roundabout there. But I was, I'm sure it's the space thing and the fact that the lake is so close to the street. Maybe that was part of it, and then
that was part of it. Yeah, Ramsey County, that's actually their signal project.
Okay.
But yeah, I think they had some reasons with space-wise that they had some restrictions.
Yeah,
So.
I guess me personally, I'd just love to see more of those.
Well, yeah, I'm
It's
supportive.
so much more feasible.
Right, and then you don't have to brake and hit the gas.
From all that pollution.
How much does it add to every project in roundabout in cost?
How much does it add?
Right.
cost-wise?
Cost-wise.
Or is it
right.
less expensive?
Well, it's very comparable to a signal system, which could be about $250,000, $250,000.
But yet in the future, I would think it would be a lot less money.
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, in the big picture.
Yeah, you're not paying for the electrical maintenance, the cost, a lot of that stuff.
What about the stop sign?
Well, a stop sign is usually put in where there's lower traffic volumes. But if you get so much traffic, you either have to go to a signal or a roundabout or something that gets traffic through quicker. essentially.
Well, my experience with the one on Frost in English has not been positive. You get people that are just terrified. I don't know, we were just talking about that. I don't know if they cut the top down and just put up a few things where you could see what's coming. But I have been behind people and we're not roundabouting, we're stopped because they're afraid to go anywhere because they can't see what's on the other side. And it hasn't worked smoothly. They're afraid to get on something, you know, and then some aren't, you know, they just take off, but they don't let other people get in.
I think the more people get on the roundabouts, I think they'll learn a little bit more. I think really, I mean, I was opposed to them in the very beginning. I was like, no, this is ridiculous. Why would we do that? But now that I've seen them used and realize what the bigger picture is, I think if people just keep using them and start getting used to them, and you're right, a lot of people, you know, will stop and things like that. But yet, in the big picture, if we're not all stopping, you know, all that pollution is not staying in that area. So, bigger picture, to me, it makes more sense to have them.
But why do they have to have such a big hump in the middle? Why does it have to be that
That
high?
was cut down, I think that would make a big difference.
So you're talking about visibility then?
Visibility.
Right. Well, the whole point of the roundabout is, you know, you can have a barrier in the middle. What the only thing you're looking for is right to your left. You have to yield to oncoming traffic. You're not supposed to look across. You're not supposed to look to the right. You're looking just to the left to make sure there's a spot where you can go in there. So that's all you need to look for.
You know, I just wonder if it'd be, I know what you're talking about, because I don't use it very often, but I do. I have to look both ways. You know, when they put a yield sign there, yield to left. You should have a yield to left, yield to left. That'd be a little easier.
Maybe people would understand.
Yield to left.
Do you think that would help with?
Maybe.
Because you can only
Sure.
make,
No,
you can
that's a
only
good
go in
comment.
one direction.
You can only go in one direction.
Right. It is only one way. But no, I see what you're saying.
But when there's a car speeding.
Some of the old people like me would get confused. So that way.
Going the wrong way.
Yeah, going wrong.
Well, they said when
Well,
people
I think
don't
first open.
remember basic driving is the person on the right always goes first. But one of the questions that I had is the narrowing of streets. Now with the integrate green focus, when you have a narrowing of the streets, now is that to ensure that you have the proper regulations for emergency vehicles? Is it the proper width? Blah blah blah. Now is that going to be emphasized in any plans and such that has been looked into prior to implementing the narrowing of the streets?
Yeah, we actually met with our safety folk, like Butch Jarvis, assistant fire marshal, and what we do is anything that we change width-wise, we'll run it by him. So if it's, you know, usually if it's 28 feet or narrower, I mean, that's something that we'll run by him. In some cases, if it does get narrower than that, we might, you know, tell the residents, well, we might have to restrict parking on one side. So that's why sometimes, right, so that's why sometimes people don't want it narrow because they don't want to lose parking. So you're just trying to balance
Well,
all.
and to spearhead issues like before, there's County Road C, Elm Street, and they had to actually take a part of the property of the neighbor because they weren't able to get a fire engine around that curve. So just to,
Yeah, those are all important things.
You know, instead of having a dome on those roundabouts, why don't they have it concave and use that as a rainwater garden instead of having it as dome?
Yeah, well,
I'll answer that one, John. In Davis, with Chelsea used around the roundabouts, there was one right kitty corner from the police station, and it was, you know, it was lowered so the visibility and stuff like that, but with 6 time, 2 or 3 people went right over the top.
Ooh, that's not good.
And for the most part, they were impaired, either drugs or alcohol and stuff like that. So you don't want to have it too low so that they can't differentiate at night that there's a roundabout. And certainly, if you had it too, concave, you probably, perhaps promote serious injury. It could, but
And it
the
has
person
happened
has to
in
be
Maplewood.
really impaired not
People
to
running
see
into
a little bit higher. So there's probably a happy medium between too high and too low.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. And another benefit of roundabouts really is the safety aspect. Instead of getting the T-bone crash, you're just getting minor fender benders and all. So there are studies that show, 90% reduction in instances of fatalities. So, I mean, roundabouts are really a safety feature too. So, right.
When they did the roundabout too in English and Frost there, they asked organizations and people what they should put on there. But then they didn't listen to us. They went out and hired a consultant to tell them what to plant in the roundabout. To me, that was a waste of money.
Well, and if you have vision over that, when you're talking about, you're supposed to be looking, but I think if they weren't so high and people could even see the top of the car, I think sometimes they slow down and almost stop because they're not sure, but if they can see that the cars are going, they'll just keep going.
Well, and that's a good point, because I know that in other countries and other states where I've been, where there's roundabouts, is that you are able to at least see the top of the car or that vehicle, because you need to gauge that speed so you can decide if you need to speed up a little bit when you're going in or slow down a little bit, because you can see them. So that's part of gauging that and trying to figure out where you fit in. And maybe the difference is that this is only a single lane roundabout versus a 2-lane or a 3-lane roundabout where you find it in the Bahamas or China or New Orleans or wherever you might go.
Cottage Grove.
But it's still, but it's still kind of the same concept, is that you do kind of look ahead, across, to see if somebody is entering, so you know kind of how fast they're going. I mean, I know I do, because that's how I drive in roundabouts, because that's what I've done in other places.
But they don't plant big bushes and trees and shrubbery and stuff like that.
I think.
So I
sounds
think there's
like
a
we need
happy
to find
medium
a happy
on this
medium.
concept.
Exactly. We have to
Yeah, so
find
these are all
something
good
that-
comments that
Yeah,
we ever do
definitely.
future ones.
Well, Cottage Grove has a double lane one, and you never know which lane to go in. So where you can go where you want to end up going. It's very confusing for the double lane.
So you were talking.
I thought.
You were talking about the narrowing of the streets, or it was, so if they do that, they really should restrict parking to one side or the other. And then I think that when Mayor Laundrie, I know that was a concern to us, because even though we don't live on the street, don't have a say on the streets, if we use the streets, I mean, it does have an impact on us. And the street I always use is Jarvis. When they park on both sides of that street, we can't hardly get through. And I know an emergency vehicle couldn't get through. And I know that Mayor Laundrie had said sometimes those things can be taken care of just by restriping and prohibiting parking on one side of the street. And that certainly would work. But narrowing of the street for traffic calming, I don't know.
I think that people that live on those streets, though, would like to see the narrowing. I mean, if I lived on a busy street, I'd be okay with them narrowing the street, because then the cars do have to go slower, especially when you have children. Well, I
that's a
think
good
that,
point.
I think that the thing is that the people that live on the street are gonna more go towards a narrowing of a street. I mean, that's how I would be
Yeah,
personally.
case in point, Beam Avenue was
Yeah.
like a highway over by the mall. We took that from about 44 feet down to 38, and they love it. They say it looks more like a residential street. They didn't want to live on a freeway.
Yep.
So there are some cases.
38 feet, that's good. But when you're talking less than that, that's a problem.
Oh,
Well, and I
right.
think that some of the streets that are higher traffic, they're not going to narrow them to where it's unsafe. I think I'm talking about like residential, I mean, streets that people don't go down a lot. I mean, the street I live on, I want it as narrow as possible because, you know, we have children there.
And the important thing is, we don't do anything that residents don't want to
Yeah.
live on the streets. So.
Well, and the residents that live on the streets are paying the assessment at that point, so you almost have to listen to them. You know, I mean.
Isn't it a problem when you don't have sidewalks though? So the people and like the school kids and that have to walk in the street, when you narrow it,
That's
you know,
true,
I would
too.
think safety is the thing. And, you know, most of Maplewood doesn't have sidewalks because they didn't want them when they started as a city because nobody was walking.
They
But,
still aren't walking.
well, a lot of people are out there walking now.
There's a lot more kids
compared-
walking, a lot more
No.
people biking, a lot more
Yeah,
people.
the bike trails, yeah. Walking,
Yeah, we focus, rather than residential neighborhoods, residents, about 90% don't want sidewalks, but like Hazelwood over by John Glenn and some of the, you know, where pedestrians are there, I mean, we really push and advocate for that from a safety perspective.
Yeah.
I'll move on here. This is just a photo of a before and after of a street project. This was part of our large prosperity job right across the White Bear Avenue here. But it just shows, you know, kind of the before condition and then after a full street reconstruction, what the neighborhood really looks like. On that same project on the left here, that's one of the rain gardens that was installed. One of the homeowners there had put up a small fence there just to aesthetically to kind of enhance that. And then on the right here, this is actually the Spoon Lake Preserve, where we worked with the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission. We put in a filtration basin. We fixed kind of an erosion gully area that was degrading a wetland, and we planted a bunch of these trees. And this is kind of where the ENRC wants to see kind of trees incorporated into some of these stormwater features. So I'd encourage people to go to the end of Forest Street, south of County Road C, and check this out. Next, I was going to just hit on a couple of the larger projects going on in the city. The Maplewood Mall area, White Bear Avenue and County Road D, is set for reconstruction this year. It'll be starting mid-April, so in a couple weeks here, and going all the way to the end of 2011. But this is kind of a rendering of what it would look like afterwards. You can see there will be some colored concrete at the pedestrian crossings, maintenance edge, and also the medians will be colored.
You know, back when I was on the council before, we actually saw a simulated diagram of cars moving through this intersection. Now, you know, if you guys drive on White Bear Avenue, you can see how backed up it gets, you know, way down by this, way down by here. It would have been cool to have that here today, just a comment.
Yeah.
But do you have input with the county on Redmond County Road D? Because they should have two lanes turning left, facing east.
They do. Going north on White Bear from County D.
No, I'm going east on County Road D.
Right.
There's one lane that turns left,
Right.
and they should have two because of the back.
There is going to be two now.
There will be two.
Yes, that was
That
one.
would
That
make
was
a big difference.
That was one of the worst turning movements. Is
Right.
you'd have cars backing up all the way
Right.
back to Best Buy,
That's
trying
right.
to turn left to get to 694. So this is definitely going to be a great improvement for the area. A lot of the business owners are very excited about it.
Good.
No, is Wendy's and Arby's not affected by this now?
We've worked really closely with all the businesses. We've worked with Arby's. We've worked with them on kind of the driveway entrances, so they're good to go. Wendy's, on the other hand, there are some more impacts to Wendy's, but we worked with them to design and show how their site can work. So right now they're kind of in negotiations with Ramsey County about the fair value of the taking of the strip of property in front of their business. So Wendy's is the greatest impact for a business.
But Arby's had marks almost clear up to their front door on the pavement when they were, doing the engineering on that. So that isn't affecting them anymore?
No, they're fine. They're, it's, you might have seen some markings for utilities or something like that.
I don't know what they were for, but
Yeah, no.
Also, I'd like to put a plug in. We have made a request to put a Winthrop sign farm, off White Bear, pointing towards the Winthrop farm.
Yeah. I think Senator Uyghur had talked to us about that too. So I'm going to try to get that sign up there.
More sign?
Just one quick question. What type of sign is that that's going to be going in front of the RVs? What is that going to be made out of?
Just like a cast-in-place wall, kind of an aesthetic retaining wall with kind of some railing, decorative railing. So it's what we saw it as, and we told the county that we'd really like to see something. This is kind of one of our main entrances to our great commercial corridor. We certainly want to do something to enhance the look. Because right now, if you see it says "Welcome to Maplewood, please buckle up" or something.
So how tall is that? So I mean, I'm looking at how much it blocks people's view.
But isn't that, it's how does it block off the visibility of Arby's? Because that's going to become an issue if it does.
Right, and we've worked with them through those issues, so there have been a few adjustments. So we actually have another meeting with them here coming up soon. So this is something that we've been working closely with them.
It should be permeable so you can see through it, at least to see the business behind it.
Right, and about 80% of it is, just except right there on the corner where it's that Maplewood. This is a little fuzzy here, but this is probably one of our biggest upcoming projects, probably 2014 construction, so probably a few years out yet. But this is, as you know, the signal at Highway 36 and English Street is a real problem. A lot of backing up on the interstate there. So the plan is to kind of incorporate an interchange with Highway 61, just so we can get rid of that signal, because that's a real big issue. We actually just were awarded $7 million in STP federal funding to be spent in 2014. So we were one of the highest rated projects in the metro to reduce congestion. So.
Great.
Let's back up on this just a tad. Is that green? Is that the bridge supposedly? Is that going over or under?
That is going over.
Yeah, because it's natural to go over.
Yeah, you can.
How many businesses will be affected by that?
Well, this is just a concept. An environmental review has to be conducted, so that hasn't been done. We're still about 4 years out, so I can't answer that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the blue is going to be the new highway?
No, the blue is going to be a frontage road.
Okay.
Here, I can pull it out. So if you're coming on 36 heading west, this will be a ramp in English.
Okay.
If you want to go east from English, you go this way. And then these are frontage roads that will take you to a signal here where you can have full access. So this cloverleaf would go away, essentially.
Why is all this attention on English when Hazelwood is kind of the main thoroughfare? Why they really need a way to cross Hazelwood?
Yeah, and something we're looking at too is seeing if there's any way to connect Jarvis over to that neighborhood, because we have a fire station right up there, and just to have that access to cross the interstate, we're looking to see if we can make some sort of connection. But you're right, Hazelwood is the more predominant north-south, because this dead end is right at Burton Pond when you go across.
Right. And right to the hospital, and from John Glenn across, we used to, when our neighbor was killed, and when it was open at one time, you could cross that Hazelwood. And then a couple of people died, including our neighbor, and they closed it. But they really need to have something open there.
Yeah, on the overhead pathway.
Well, for traffic, car traffic. A bridge, a car traffic.
They're expensive to put in.
Well, I mean, but
And those are the issues that we'll have to look at if this gets done, how do we address the connection over the Hazel?
to me, take away the semaphore at English and put it at Eastern.
Oh, I see.
instead.
Except that I think that property, southeast, may be developed in the future with business. Is that not true?
Yeah.
Southeast?
Yeah,
That's one of the reasons we want to keep this open.
With the soccer.
Exactly. Because I think that is zone business, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's one of the reasons.
Factory is?
I'm
Well,
sorry.
Ramsey County owns part of the property.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
And, yeah,
So you're talking right by the corner kick soccer?
exactly. Is
Yeah,
that zone business? I
Yeah,
mean,
that was actually supposed to be developed a couple of years back, but.
That's what I
But we're
thought.
talking one business, the impact on one business. I'm talking about impact on whole community.
Sure, and I understand that, and I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that I think that the focus itself has been on not only English, but also 61.
But the side roads will take care of that, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, if you're going from across 36 between White Bear Avenue and 61, really you've got that area there, then in between there that's the only three accesses off of 36. And it seems to me that kind of is the call, for whatever you've got coming there. Because if you're going to someplace in between, you kind of get all screwed up.
Yeah.
What's going to end up happening to the corner kick and also Wipers Recycling by putting in that frontage road?
Yeah, and again, this is just a concept, there's real no dimensions put to it, so I really couldn't answer that question. I don't, like Dave asked, I don't know what the specific impacts would be. I mean, we'd have to do an environmental review.
I'll tell you another thing too, it's gonna be going, believe it or not, Century's gonna get a bridge eventually too.
Over the 694?
Well, Century and 36, because that's another tie-up, and eventually
That's,
they're gonna have it all.
that's going on, what,
That's North St. Paul.
a year or 2 years? That signal is
Where
being
kicks
being
isn't in
removed.
this anywhere, is it?
On 36
And
and Century, is it?
In
No.
North St. Paul,
Yeah.
120.
I don't know that they have I'd have to check.
well, I'm just
I
saying,
haven't kept track.
whether they do or they don't, but it'll be the next thing to go, because it's a tie-up too.
This, as I understood it, is that on 36, there's only two signals left, the one in English and the one in North St. Paul. And I think that North St. Paul one is been approved and going to be removed in the next 2 years. And then so that would leave just the one in English, the only one between Stillwater and wherever. And so that's how we got the priority.
Because when they get that bridge across the river, which they'll eventually get, this is gonna be, it'd be a lot of heavier traffic on 36.
I mean, over the same prairie.
Yes, a lot heavier traffic on the 36. They have to do those first before they get the bridges, so I think they're gonna have to get rid of those signals.
The way the
So
bridge
it's
is
gonna be,
going.
it's a good,
It might be a while before the bridge is built.
Gigantic roundabout.
Yeah,
That's $1 billion.
Yeah, there's
going
several
up $100
signals
million.
between Stillwater and North St.
At
Paul.
least two,
Right.
maybe three.
3 or 4 down the road.
Closing the lift bridge.
Yeah.
down, too.
Yep, they just closed that.
28 million a year.
All right, I'll just jump through, just outlining a few of the projects going on in Maplewood this year. The Hills and Dales area street improvements over off of English and County Road B. That south side there, that whole neighborhood is set for full reconstruction. Also a continuation of the Holloway and Stanage neighborhoods. And also, we got stimulus dollars to do an improvement on Stillwater Road between Lakewood and Century. So we're going to be doing a full mill and overlay, drainage improvements, and adding sidewalk,
Which side of the street is the sidewalk going to be on?
the south side.
I'm gonna on the north. Oh, sorry. Well, Stillwater's not too far from us. But yeah, I am.
Yeah. And then Ramsey County, some of their upcoming projects, as you probably noticed, County Road B is in really rough shape throughout Maplewood. So they're actually doing, fixing the pavement, doing a mill and overlay from Interstate 35 to Edgerton, and also from Atlantic Street right up to White Bear Avenue.
Will they be adding sidewalks?
No. So that's,
That's too bad.
I
No,
wish,
no, we're not for sidewalks.
I wish.
Other than that area, we have a nice, without sidewalks. Then we
Right.
push the sidewalks. If you want sidewalks, go to Minneapolis, they got them all over.
And then on Larpenteur Avenue, they're planning to mill and overlay from Jackson Street to the interstate. And then County Road C, you probably know it's really bumpy over from 61 to Hazelwood. They're actually doing a full pavement replacement starting this year. So that's a up-and-coming project just to fix that problem with the tinting where it feels like you're going over speed bumps there.
Wasn't part of that road redone?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was a premature failure,
Yeah.
and they've had that studied, and there's been a lot of, studies by then.
That's too bad.
Yeah. And then some of the big projects the county is leading is they're finishing up Century Avenue from 94 down to Lake Drive, which has been ongoing for a couple of years. Rice Street and Highway 36 interchange, a new bridge and interchange is going to be put at that location. And obviously the project I already spoke about, White Bear Avenue and County Road D, which is starting out in a couple of weeks. And another big thing that I'm excited about is the State Department of Transportation. They're actually doing an overlay of Highway 61 from Roselawn Avenue all the way up to White Bear Lake.
What are they going to do with the bridge? The bridge meaning the bridge that is just north of Parkway Drive?
I don't know that they're doing anything to the bridge at this time. Are you talking? Oh, you're talking about the Frogstaff, the Maplewood Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, in the Gladstone neighborhood. If you go from over by the park there,
Yeah,
Ranch
actually,
County
there's-
Courthouse.
You can go under the bridge. It's a underpass to go from the one park to the other. Underneath Highway 61.
Part of the trail.
It's part of the trail,
the Gateway Trail.
the Gateway Trail.
Yeah, it's below, it's by the pond, behind the pond.
Right, okay.
Is there money to do something with that bridge because it was really in bad shape years ago?
Yeah, I don't know that anything's being done as part of this project
Okay.
specifically.
Because they're going to be going right over top of it, and I can.
They replaced a few boards
Yeah.
a couple of months ago.
And they sometimes do minor rehab work.
It's really bad.
Is that
It's a really
the
bad
state or
spot.
in Ramsey County or what?
Well, if it's on 61, it would be the state.
Underneath Highway 61, it's the underpass that you can go under. I think isn't there a creek right there? Is there a creek and then?
Yeah, I think.
That's
The other one.
Yeah, actually, I think. Okay, I know what you're talking about
That's
now.
the other one.
Okay, yeah, I think
That's the
Ramsey
one.
County may be doing something with that
I
for
hope so.
replacement.
I hope so. 'Cause
Okay,
it's-
I was thinking of a different bridge.
No, it's
That's
really
the
bad.
other
It's really bad.
Yeah, there's been talks about
Okay,
doing something
good.
with that bridge here.
Do people go under that or just turtles? What is it?
People go under it. There's a pathway from Round Lake area, Phelan Park, underneath then to go to Keller Park. It's beautiful. Walk and ride.
You know, I can remember when in A, B, C, D, that all was put in the county on those routes. I mean, I think that's governed a lot of stuff there, the way things are going. Because, you know, I can remember when County Road C was Highway 36 when it was first started. And we used to go by, you know, where our farm was there. But, of course, then they built 36 down below, and it just seems that somehow or other, I don't know how you can be, but that's just made a lot of different, areas. Because it just, but that was kind of, I think, would set the pattern, and then there's been different things done after that.
It had an impact on the drainage too, the water. Yeah.
Like where our farm was there, between, on County Road C, between Hazelwood and Kennard there. Well, our farm was a big hill there now. Now there's a hole there. There's not, that whole area there in the park and that down there, really, that was just a lot different where the pond is down there. I used to spend hours down there in our pasture. I don't
Thank
know.
you for that history, because we really need to hear that. Keep
This
that.
Highway 61 overlay, Minnesota Department of Transportation, so the state pays for that paving. You know, I was thinking the other day, that thing is so well, that thing is 70 years old, that paving in there. It never sank. So it's a good thing they overlay it instead of taking it out, because there's nothing wrong with that pavement in there, except it's got to get rid of, it's a mess.
The concrete.
Yeah, but the concrete's fine.
But the sub-base is good.
The sub-base is very good, so they're going to overlay that. So Minnesota is going to pick up, the whole state of Minnesota will pick up that tab, right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next, I just wanted to kind of talk briefly about park maintenance and just an overview of that. The city has 35 parks, roughly about 400 acres, 14 preserves, just over 300 acres. And some of the things that our Parks Department staff has been doing is making some in-house improvements. As you probably noticed over in the Legacy Park area, there was a piece of playground equipment that nobody really played on. And so we actually built a park right adjacent to that. So it's turned out really great. I'd encourage you to go look at that. And then also up off of Mississippi Street as part of our DeSoto Skillman project, we've graded a lot, and we're ready to put some equipment here pretty soon for the apartment complex right there. So we've been working with him. And upcoming projects, and I know community development, Dwayne has kind of been leading the effort, is Lions Park. He's been working with the commissions, and that'll be really kind of a highlight of what a redone park will look like. In the 2010 year, the council authorized the staff to upgrade some of the trails in our parks. So we have enough funding to overlay about 2 miles of trails. So the 3 parks that we'll be working on, our staff will be paving all these, and that is Maplewood Heights Park, Harvest Park, and Coleman Park. So that'll be really nice for the residents over by Maplewood Heights, having a nice smooth trail to get from their complex over to Beam Avenue in the Maplewood area. So this will really is kind of the start of putting money back into our parks and really improving them.
Is that actually in our budget to do that?
That is in our operations budget that was approved by council through the 2010 budget process.
And then do you foresee that this will happen in the different neighborhoods as we go south, or just like adding?
Yeah, the plan is to do at least 2 or 3 a year. We'll make the requests, and right now we're kind of doing the worst first. These trails need it the worst, but yeah, I mean we'll be hitting all different areas of the city over the years.
Okay. So I have a question. If it's in the operations budget, so then and it's in-house, is the money then to pay for our in-house staff time, if it's from in the operations budget, then that's coming from property taxes, or what monies is it coming from?
It's just part of a normal salary. I mean, this is just part of the operation. We don't get any additional funding to pay for staff for these. It's something that we're doing. It's something, we got authorization from the council to spend the money on the material, so it's just a matter of our guys just doing the work.
That's
Right, okay, so when you're saying it's the operations budget, it isn't basically, we're doing it in-house, and it's part of the overall salary that they're paid, and that salary is paid by property taxes.
Right. It's-
Right.
The,
I just wanted to know.
The park maintenance part is when they say do the overlay for the trails there, they'll pull guys from the street department, and we have them lay down machine, and we purchase the asphalt from the St. Paul plant, and so it'll probably be several departments, maybe even stormwater.
And I know
guys that are
we've done
coming
this in the past
and
as
doing
well.
it all.
Well, I just wanted to clarify, because I know that with Mississippi Tot Lot, for instance, that was part of a road reconstruction project in 2007, I think it was. And, you know, we obviously, since it's part of the street reconstruction project, that project was bonded for, but see, that's his in-house too. So that's why I wanted to be sure that with the trail projects, I understood that in-house, when say it was operations budget, that wasn't being from the property taxes. Just for insurance.
So then graffiti removal, huh?
Yeah.
Actually had weeds.
Yeah, and this is kind of good, you know, our staff usually gets out there within about 24 to 48 hours if they get notice of graffiti. So if you see anything on our trails, parks, buildings, you can either call me or Mark Maruska, who's our parks foreman, and his staff is really good about getting out there. So that's kind of one of their focuses too. They kind of hit that really hard if we get complaints. Also, parks, they're really involved with working with code enforcement on some of the abatement requests. Last year, we had about 45 complaints that our department actually acted on, where we either went out, fixed somebody's fence that was laying down where nobody was living there, mowing yards that had weeds that were 6 feet tall, removing trash out of front yards.
And then we assess that property owner.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. So the code enforcement tracks the time that we put in, and then, yeah, by city code, we charge that back. But, yeah, this definitely, our staff, we usually have 1 or 2 guys that are kind of on call for these type of things.
And I'm sure they keep very busy.
They do. They do. So, and I'll kind of go through some other things. I mean, the parks maintenance staff, they're going to be helping a lot with, we're going to be putting in a pier in Wakefield Lake this year. Also working on the Joy Park pier. So there's always a lot of projects kind of ancillary to what their base operation.
Will you be working with county and other entities on some of those
The
things?
DNR,
okay.
other city.
Great.
I just have one question. When you're talking about graffiti removal and those types of things, when you have a business that has been notified that they have graffiti around their business or on their property, now they're usually mandated to clean it up themselves. If they do not clean it up themselves, what actions does the city take to ensure that they get that cleaned up?
Yeah, what would happen is it would go through our city code enforcement, and if through the process of notification they still didn't do anything, we would work with them, and if it got to a point, we would probably send our guys out to do something about it just because it's a public nuisance, and then charge it back to the property.
Good.
Now, do we have I haven't kept up on this, but with the vacant house registration issue, do we have a administrative fee now that we charge for that, in addition to then the work that we've done that we can then assess against the property through the statute?
We looked at that, and in the process of looking at it, the staff started working with the Realtors Association, and as I understand it, knock on wood, that this year that the process, we developed a process that with the realtors and with the banks, that we don't have to institute a foreclosure abandoned house ordinance. And staff was, it was on the agenda, but it started working out, just communicating and stuff, that we're gonna try it without adding another law on the books and see how it goes.
Right, well, that's good, because, I mean, because with this abatement issue, I mean, the city has to go out and do certain things to clean up a property or whatever. I mean, the state law already allows us to assess it against that property, so
Right.
eventually it gets paid just like, you know, any other kind of assessment.
So hopefully with this cooperative effort, we don't have to put another law on the books and just follow what we have.
Do we have a percentage of, I'm sorry, do we have a percentage of how many vacancies we really have in the city? Do we have that up to date yet?
We had a number of foreclosures, and the last time I looked, and that was quite some time ago, there was like either 72 or 86, which, you know,
Homes.
surprisingly was small compared to some of our neighbors and stuff.
So
That
it's
were
a pretty
actually,
pretty small percentage
Yeah.
then.
yeah, it was surprising because there was thousands in North St. Paul, and yeah, I think I can comfortably say there was less than 100 from the, you know, the figures that Ramsey County could provide us. Now, there may be some other ones out there that we could
So
track,
we're pretty lucky then.
but
in
we're
that respect.
pretty lucky, and so
What kind of figures did you have
no,
received?
Well, that has-
in St. Paul.
And this gentleman's been waiting to speak.
Question, what's meant by major overhaul? What's that consist of? Like Lions Park?
Oh, that means basically the whole site's going to be reconfigured. There's going to be the old play equipment taken out, new play equipment put in. The ball fields are going to be redone. So it's just a whole overhaul of the site.
Lions Club's going to build a new shelter,
Oh, great.
picnic shelter, which is really very attractive, and it will be a very nice asset for picnics and whatnot.
And this lady over here.
Well, I wasn't done yet.
Oh, sorry.
Now, doesn't the government have a program where there are, if you put in facilities for the ball players and stuff like that, that the federal government was giving out money for that to happen?
Many years ago, there was
Not that many years ago, within the last 4 years or 3 years.
now there's been a change, and it used to be a lot more state and federal funds, and it's sort of ramped on down now, and they went into different areas, and, you know, these legacy funds and larger projects, and so it's not as small intensive as it used to be, the way I understand it.
It's still something that should be checked on as
Well,
far
we're checking
as
on
grants are concerned.
on a lot of those, and I think we've done fairly well this past year as far as securing different grants, and particularly the large area ones. I don't know how many millions of dollars Michael has,
Yeah, well,
has been working on with 36 Rice Street, White Bear Avenue. I mean, the amount is staggering.
it's in the millions of dollars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of grants out there, we should take advantage of it.
I think they do a good job, actually. I think our staff does a really good job looking for those things. And you had a question.
The only
that you-
question I
I'm
have
sorry.
is I know that there's a lot of parks that are, you know, being put together, but up where we live in North Maplewood, in our neighborhood, we don't have a park in our neighborhood.
Where do you live?
KSTP Tower area. Yeah, and we don't have a park in that area, and there's a lot of young kids there. And so looking at the dimensions of the area, I would think that something could be worked out with someone to get a park in that area, because we've never had one there.
Hasn't the Parks Commission looked at the city and said, you
Yeah,
know,
there was a
where,
study with-
there was a study not too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, Beth, I mean, there's the Coleman Park and then the Hazelwood Park. I mean, it's not directly right in your neighborhood, but they're in the area. But
It's
I
not
think,
where a child could go and play.
right, you don't want somebody to cross 61.
No, a 5-year-old.
We got a compost site for our kids.
How
That's what we have.
how close is your nearest park?
Hazelwood,
Yeah,
and
but how
that's not
close?
how, it's
Several.
several blocks. And for some of these kids that, you know, are in preschool and stuff, you know, they can't walk there, they can't walk that far.
How about half a mile?
It's more than a half a mile for them.
It's
Yep.
more than
More
half
than
a mile.
half a mile for them.
Because
Yep.
I'm on the Parks Commission, and we talk a lot about that. We do generally have a policy of having parks within half a mile.
Yeah.
I don't have one in my neighborhood either.
Okay, so what's your closest one?
Fire is just south of you, close to us. Actually, I have two close to me. I'm lucky.
And see, the thing now that has changed,
It's Hill Murray, but that's.
it used to be, like when my kids were young, you could let them go and play in a park, but people aren't letting kids do that anymore. But
It's not safe.
No, it's
that's
not.
interesting to hear you talk about